started with talking about HSMs as a product, what exactly HSM stands for, and what are the different usage of HSMs in different use cases. We talked about the product specification, what you can expect on the front, what you can expect on the rear panel for the product. Then we talked about different model of HSMs based on performance, based on authentication type. If you have a PET-based HSM, you also have to work on a pin entry device. We talked about that device, and today we're also going to see that device in the demonstration. After that, we talked about different roles based on whether they will give you access to the appliance or whether they will give you access to the HSMs. So folks, before we start our day two, any questions from the last day? Yes, Mohammed.
Yeah, I need to ask about when the portal I tried to download the PDF book. He asked me for a password. Can you tell me what is this?
Okay, so there will be no options to download the PDF from this learning portal. So whatever is right here, let me resume the sharing. So whatever content you find on this portal here, it is for
Yes.
you. It is accessible for you for the next 40 days, but you cannot download anything from this portal.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have access till, let me see the date, uh, your 4th of March. You have access till this portal.
Okay.
Okay, folks. Any other questions before we start our day two? Perfect. So let's start. Let's resume module number 3 where we left. Just a quick audio and the screen test. I hope you guys can hear me okay and also see this pointer moving on the screen. Thank you, Yusuf, Christopher, Jerry. So yesterday we talked about cloning domain towards the end of our day one. So just again to revisit cloning domain. So whenever your cryptographic content have to leave your partition boundary, they will be encrypted. They will be encrypted with a secret that will be derived from your cloning domain. You have your cloning domain at your HSM level. You have your cloning domain at your partition level. So whenever you are moving contents between partition, it is the partition domain that needs to be same. That is the source partition and the target partition. They must have the same partition cloning domain. If the partition cloning domain is different, you cannot move the content out from a one partition and store it on another. So in case you have Luna 5s and you want to migrate it to Luna 7, you have to ensure that you still have the Luna 5 cloning domain of your partitions which you want to migrate. If you have Luna 7, you want to add another member to your HA group. It is important that you must have the cloning domain of that partition. So it is not important that your HSM domain and your partition domain they need to match. It is not important. They can be different. So in case of a password HSM, your cloning domain will be represented by a string. For your PET-based HSM, you will have a physical red key as your cloning domain. Let me present you how these physical PET keys and your physical pin entry device looks like. So just let me present my camera for that. I hope folks you guys can now see me as well on the webcam. Thanks, Chris. So folks, this is your pin entry device. You have your pin for entering your pin, for verifying your pin, and you have your LCDs display here which will give you very important information like which color of the PET key it is expecting, whether you want to duplicate, and so much information you can see when you will be using this pin entry device. On the top you have an option to physically insert the your PET keys. This is how your PET keys looks like. like just like a USB dongles, and you have a sticker on them. Once you receive the paired keys from us, they will be just blank. We will provide you these stickers along with the paired keys, so that whenever you are configuring a particular role, you just peel the sticker and apply on a particular paired key. So this way you can remember which paired key belongs to which user. If I just have bunch of all the black paired keys, I cannot remember which paired key belongs to which role. I have to keep on guessing for all of the roles. That's why this color scheme is being used. Red, blue, black for crypto officer, orange, and your white. So we'll be using this paired keys today for your HSM initialization, followed by your partition initialization. We'll be doing that today. It is important that you must bring this cloning domain key on the day you are doing your backup. If you are doing it for the first time, you have to initialize your backup partition with the same red key. If it is a password HSM, you have to initialize the partition with the same string for your cloning domain. Even for high availability, if you are introducing a new member, these becomes very, very important, which we're gonna see
يا بابا
some
خلاص انا
demos
بادئ
as well.
الكورس دلوقتي يا بابا ما اعرفش.
Now about HSM initialization. So once you have configured the credentials for your admin user, you have configured the networking. Now you can access your appliance
يا
over the
بابا
network.
خليها زي
So the
ما هي
first thing you have
لحد
to
ما
do
يجي
is
ياخدها.
that someone have to take the ownership over your HSM. Can someone remember what is the administrator of your HSM? Which role or which user is the administrator of your HSM?
HSM security officer.
SO.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right, Sabha, Avinash. SO. Your HSM SO will needs to take the ownership over the HSM. That is done at the time of HSM initialization. They will set your SO credential. The user will set their credentials. They will give a label to the HSM, so that if you have multiple HSMs in your environment, you can identify which HSM belongs to which group. For example, it could be prod 01, dev 03, so on. You can give any label to your HSM. Then you will set your cloning domain. This is for your HSM level. This is your HSM cloning domain. Whenever you plan to reinitialize your existing HSM, remember folks, all your existing content will be gone if you plan to reinitialize your HSM. All content immediately gone. Sorry, what's that?
Sí, gracias. La veo.
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Is it okay? I believe
I
that's
think
it.
I think Jimmy just has his mic unmuted
Okay.
and
Okay.
talking.
Okay. Okay, let's wait for him to mute, else I can do that from my end. Okay, so whenever you reinitialize your existing HSM, thank you, all your content will be gone. You have to set your SO credentials. Totally up to you if you want to use the same set of pet keys and pin, or if you want to change it. If you want to give a new label, or you want to keep an same label. And similarly, your cloning domain, if you want to reuse the pet keys, reuse the password, you can do that. Now some important terminology for your HSM usage. They are zeroizing, decommissioning, and factory default. So let's first understand what event will result your HSM to be zero. So first, your security officer for the HSM, if they exceed the bad login attempts, your HSM will go to zeroized state. Anyone remembers the count for SO? The number of counts your SO have to provide
Three.
the set? Three.
Three.
Absolutely.
Three.
You're absolutely right. 3. So if your security officer make 3 incorrect attempts, HSM goes to 0 state. Firmware rollback. You upgraded the firmware for your appliance. After some time, you decide to roll back. Even firmware rollback will result your HSM to be in 0 state. Third option, the manual way, you run the command HSM 0-wise. This is a sensitive command, so you cannot run this command over SSH. You have to be in the data center. Over console connection, you can run this command HSM 0-wise. In all these 3 events, your contents will be gone. Every partitions, the contents which was there inside the partition, gone. Your HSM configuration, that will be retained. If you have changed your HSM policies, they will also be retained. Your audit role, if you have configured your audit user, they will also be retained. Your orange pet vector, orange pet key will also be retained. But if you want to use the same HSM again, you have to reinitialize it. You have to set the SO credentials again. You have to set the label again. You have to set the cloning domain again. This is your HSM goes to when HSM goes to 0 state. The second is decommission. You have already seen the rear panel of the HSM. There is a decommission button. If you press that decommission button, your HSM goes to decommission state. Second, there is a policy called as decommission on tamper. That is, any tamper event which will be detected by your HSM will remove all the content. So if these are the 2 cases where your HSM will go to decommission state. All partition content gone. Audit role also gone. Your policy setting, they will be retained. Your orange pet key, they will also be retained. But again, you have to reinitialize your HSM for usage. This is decommission. And third one, factory default. As the name suggests, everything back to the original configuration. The command is HSM factory reset, but you have to be on the console connection to trigger this command. Over SSH, you are not allowed to run HSM factory reset. The impact, partition content gone, all roles, users gone, orange pet vector removed, configuration and policy reset, and this is just like a brand new HSM. So these are the 3 events for your HSM: zeroizing, decommission, and factory defaults. Now let's start the HSM initialization. I have already started the HSM which is there at my home. So let me relaunch the session. So the first thing is, once you receive the appliances, you will configure your admin credentials. If you do not remember your admin credentials, we already know the username and password which can help you to recover that. Anyone remembers the username and password that can help you to reset your admin credentials?
It's username, recover, and password, all uppercase.
Absolutely right, Chris, Sabah, and Anthony in the chat as well. It is recover, not recovery. So yes, what Anthony had mentioned in the chat, it's the right combination. However, the password needs to be all uppercases. So if you want to reset the admin credential, go to the data center, console n, recover username, password uppercase password, and reset your admin password. Run the command HSM show. Whenever you see the label for your HSM as blank, whenever, even for your partition, if you see the label as blank, that means that HSM is not initialized. That partition is not initialized. If there is no HSM initialization, that means there is no security officer at this moment. No one can log in into the HSM without security officer. So the first step for your HSM initialization is creating your, sorry, what? Okay, so the first step for your HSM initialization is you will create your security officer. So let's change that. If you want to see the command for, let me share the command in the chat for configuring the networking, because that is already done. So this is the command if you want to have a static IP on any of your Ethernet interfaces. So that's the command you guys can use. So for me, networking is already done. Admin user credentials already configured. The appliances currently are sitting a little bit far from me. So what I have done is I've initialized the orange ped vector, RPV. So the command to initialize your remote ped vector is HSM ped vector init. So if you are in the data center, just run this command and get your orange ped key with you. If you have your orange ped key with you, all the further operations can be done remotely. So let me present my camera for this particular operation for your HSM initialization. We'll follow what ped keys will provide on the ped. So as of now, I'm working remotely. I'm able to work remotely because I have this orange ped key with me. So just remember this command, HSM ped vector init. If you're working remotely, you require Luna client with your ped drivers. So let me show you the installation for Luna client as well. Always install Luna client with admin privileges. So from this section, you can select which kind of devices will be using your Luna client, a particular Luna instance, and what all features you require. So on this server, on this virtual machine, I required remote ped drivers to be installed because I need to connect to my HSM remotely. I'm working on network HSM, so I've selected network. On the same device, I'll be doing some backup operation, so I also selected backup, so that backup drivers are also available. On the right section is about features. I believe someone asked me yesterday about what kind of libraries are available for different applications. So this is where you can select the features which you want to install. If you have a Microsoft-based application, CSP, KSP, Java, JSP, you have a provider for PKCS11, and so on. Functionality module FM. So this Luna client is already installed, and this is the default installation directory. C program files, SafeNet, and Luna client. On this virtual machine, this ped is physically connected as of now. This ped is connected to this server. If you want to verify that, devices and printers, you can see this ped device connected. My virtual machine is able to understand this as a ped because my drivers are already installed. With the Luna client installation, I have told my laptop about these drivers to understand the ped connection. So now this server completely remote with my HSM. My HSM is so far away from in a different room. So we're gonna use my HSM. We're gonna access the HSM with this remote ped. Even we're gonna initialize remotely. So there's a service called as ped server. Let's do a clean restart. Ped server -m stop, ped server -m start. and let's ped server -m show, just to verify whether my ped is currently connected or not. Let's see the status again. It might take some time. So ped server -m show give me connected. So this ped is now connected to my virtual machine. Now this is my SSH session on the appliance. My IP is 192.168.0.10. This is my HSM IP. 192.168.0.32. This is my server IP, my client IP. So now we have already configured this orange ped key. So with the help of this key, we can establish remote ped connection. We just have to tell the HSM about this ped server. So the command is HSM ped connect -IP. Folks, I hope the font is fine for everyone. It is not too small to see. Please let me know. Thanks, Chris.
Can you make it bigger? Because it is
Sure.
very small.
Sure, I can. How about now?
Much better. Thank you so much.
Perfect. So the command is HSM ped connect -IP. You have to tell the HSM about the IP of the ped server. This is the server where my ped is connected. 192.168.0.32. And the port. Anyone remembers the port for the remote ped connection? The default one?
1503.
1503. I think I have already given the partial one away, so it's good if you remember. HSM ped connect -IP, the IP of the ped server and the port. Just have to tell this information to the HSM. It says awaiting command. Whenever the command reaches on the HSM on the ped, it will say token found. Token found. So it says insert your orange ped key. It also tell you on the ped console the color and the name of the key it is expecting. This ped key already configured. I'll insert the ped key and press enter. Enter the ped pin. So the pin is already configured. The remote ped pin. Enter.
محمود هو انت لحد عندك حاجة؟ يعني انا بفكر ان احنا تمام.
Now it is giving me the serial number of the HSM I'm trying to connect. 555392. Are you trying to connect to this HSM? If you scroll up, 555392. This is a serial number for my HSM. You can also confirm it from the ped console. Yes, there is a yes or no here. Yes, this is yes, this is no. So let's press yes. Just one button, Chris. This will time out. Just let me complete this operation. It says connected and done. Yes, Chris.
Sorry. Does it always ask you what ped what HSM you're connecting to?
Yes.
That-
Now with the newer firmware upgrade on the ped.
Oh, the firmware. Okay, I see. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. So now from a remote location, my HSM knows about this ped server. With the help of the orange ped key, connection is established. Now we'll do the HSM initialization. The security officer will take the ownership over the HSM. The command is simple: HSM init -label, any label you like. This is my first HSM, so HSM 01. HSM init -label HSM 01. You are trying to initialize the HSM. Let's proceed. It says token found here. And this ped is again very interactive. It will also tell you setting SO pin. Currently we are configuring the security officer pin. I'm not sure whether you guys are able to read it, but I'll just hold it for a few seconds. It says, would you like to reuse an existing key set? Yes or no? So this is where, folks, you decide whether the same individual you want to reuse this key or not. So my security officer, I have two HSMs. Both of them have the same security officer key. So I'll insert the same key. Would you like to reuse an existing key set? Yes. I want to reuse an existing key set. Insert the SO key, insert it. Enter the pin, enter.
I'm not seeing any of these commands that you're saying.
So it's there on the pad. I'm just reading it out because if I
Okay.
even if I bring it close, you'll not see it. So
Okay,
It's-
thank you. I
it-
thought I was going crazy.
no worries, Raj. It says on the pad, are you duplicating this key set? So folks, at this moment, if you want to make duplicates of these physical pad keys, you can. Even at a later stage, if you want to make a duplicate of the keys, you can do that later. This is just a training. Even if I lost this HSM pad key, I can always reset it. But for you folks, you don't have that liberty anymore. Are you duplicating this key set? No, I'm not duplicating. So the first step was configuring security officer. Second is security officer will log in. Insert the SO HSM admin key. Insert the SO key. Already inserted. The blue pad key is already inserted. Press enter. The pin. Once a security officer logs in, the next thing is cloning domain. Cloning domain for your HSM. For the entire HSM, we have one cloning domain. Setting domain, it's written on the pad. Setting domain. Would you like to reuse an existing key set? Yes or no? So now we are configuring this red key. So let me show you what will happen if you select no, that you are not using an existing key set. Would you like to reuse an existing key set? Yes or no? So let's press no. I want to completely set a new key. Setting domain. Straight away it asks you for your M value. So same concept of quorum which we discussed yesterday, the minimum and the maximum. So PED wants to know what's the minimum user you want to configure for your cloning domain and what is the maximum you want to configure. This is just a training, so I'm keeping the minimum values 1 of 1, but for you folks, you can configure the quorum value as per your requirement. So M value 1 and enter. Now it asks you N value 1 and enter. After selecting the M and N value, it is asking you to provide the red key. Please insert the red cloning domain key. Red key already inserted. Enter. So now this PED key was used for my previous training. So now my PED is giving me a warning. This PED key is already used for domain. Do you want to overwrite? Yes or no? So for me, I already know that even if these secrets are lost, I can always reset my HSM. But for you folks, if you are doing some operation and you get this warning, please do not ignore this warning, because if the PED secrets are overwritten, they can never be recovered. Never. So for me, yes, I want to overwrite. It asks me again, are you sure you want to overwrite this PED keys? Yes, I'm sure. And now it asks me to configure the new PED pin. New PED pin for the cloning domain. PED pin entered. Confirm new PED pin and entered. Setting domain, please wait. Are you duplicating this key set? No, I'm not making any duplicates. Done. My HSM is now successfully initialized. I can run the command HSM show again to see the difference. So this label, which was earlier blank, HSM01 is now visible. Number of partitions, I am allowed 5 HSM partition, and number of partition created are 0, obviously because the HSM is just recently initialized. So remember the sequence: admin user for your appliance, followed by networking, done. Then your HSM SO will be initialized and they will take the ownership over the HSM. At this moment, if I have to start creating partition, I cannot create the HSM partition as of now. Can someone just read this highlighted area and let me know why I cannot create the partition at this moment? The answer lies in this highlighted area itself. At this stage, if I try to create HSM partition, I'll get an error. Can anyone guess why?
You don't have an audit role?
You do not have any audit log. Again, that we talked about audit role. That's an optional role, even if there is no audit.
Yeah, okay.
Verification string needed. It is not in STM mode, so no need of verification string. So still,
Is it the remote login has to be initialized, or?
remote login is already initialized, Raj, because we already used the orange pet key, so that is already there.
Your admin needs to be logged in. Your SL.
Absolutely right, Nathan. Your SO needs to be logged in. Here it says HSM admin login status. Without my SO logged in, I cannot do any operation on the HSM. Like partition creation, partition deletion, I cannot do that. So here it says HSM admin login status. And who is your HSM admin? SO. Nice catch, Nathan. So let's change that. Let me show you the error first. Partition create hyphen partition. Because of the response, let's call this partition Nathan. And
I have a partition named Nathan too.
so that's now makes 2 of them. So now we are getting this error, user not logged in. So let's change that. HSM login. So this is the command for your security officer to log in. It also tell you on the console, please provide the blue pet key. The same thing on the pet console as well. SO logging in. Insert your SO HSM admin pet key. In the bracket it says blue. So your pet is again very interactive. It will also tell you the color scheme which you are expected to provide. Blue pet key, we recently configured it. Enter the pin for the security officer. Done. HSM security officer login is now successful. Let's rerun the last command, HSM show. And this is now logged in. HSM admin login status logged in. So if I now rerun the last command to create my partition, partition create hyphen partition Nathan. Done. Security officer have the permissions to create partition, to delete partition, resize partition, and so on. Any question, folks, from this small demo for your HSM initialization? Perfect. So let's continue with some more theory and then we'll come back to this part again and we're gonna see the configuration which needs to be done from the client side.
And the recording for this will be available later today, yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes, Raj.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so now these are your policies. So policies these are your flags that control what your HSM can do and what they cannot do. So these are controlled, these are governed by your policies. There are few policies at HSM level, we call them global policies. And there are few policies at partition level. They will just impact a particular partition. So global policies, they will be configured by your HSM security officer, HSM SO. And your partition level policy, they will be configured by their particular partition PO, partition security officer. So global policy SO, partition policies PO. There are some policies at HSM level and at your partition level which are destructive. So when we say destructive, so if the HSM policy, the global policy is destructive, all the partitions, everything will be gone. Every partition, every single partition will be gone. And if the policy is destructive at partition level, only partition's content will be gone. So coming back to my HSM console here, if we run the command HSM show policies, so here under destructive, if the policy is marked as yes, then every HSM partition will be gone if you change these policy values. So make sure folks you understand these destructive policies impact, and before starting creating your partition, you configure these values in your production or in your lower environment. For example, decommission on temper. Do you want to enable the decommission button on the rear panel? Decide these policies before creating your HSM partition, because at this moment my Nathan partition is created. If I change this policy value, decommission on temper, and if I change it to no, then my HSM partition Nathan will be gone from the memory. I have to recreate it. Where will be the location of the recordings? How can we access? Okay, so this is the learning portal, and all the session recordings are available, will be available here. The day one's session recording is already uploaded, and after end of each day it will take me a few hours to upload and process on this portal. So this is where you can find it. If someone still needs the link to access this portal, so here's the link in the chat.
Hi Akshay.
Yes.
So when I go to the portal, it says I've registered, but it says it's not started. So how do I?
You just have to click on any of the module. As soon as you click on the module, it will start the progress. So yeah, we can work on that on the first break. If anyone is still facing challenges with the portal, we can continue that on the first break for the day. So some policies, they are yes, Avinash.
So we log in with HSM SO on the Luna session, right?
Right, yeah.
So once we log in, so do we have to still connected that particular paid device till the operation is completed, or we have to just remove it once we log in it successfully?
So it will not time out. So let's say if I am logged into this console as my security officer, if I have to, let's say after some time, I have to initialize audit officer as well, then again I require that PED connection to be resumed. But again, if at this moment I do not need any PED operation to be done, I can run the command HSM PED disconnect, and my PED will be, I'm no longer connected to the PED server.
Okay.
So this only depends on how frequently you have to do some login procedure on the Luna shell.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep. So there are few policies, few capabilities which you cannot change. For example, if you have purchased a PET based HSM, it will always work as PET based HSM. If you have purchased 750 performance level, it will always work as 750 performance level. It cannot go to 790. So there are few policies, capabilities which you cannot change. If you want to change a particular policy value, let's say if you want to change allowed non-FIPS algorithm, so you just have to run the command. Let me show you it from this console. HSM change policy hyphen policy number. Let's say if I want to change policy number 6 hyphen value 1 or 0. So 1 means on, 0 means off. So this is the command HSM change policy hyphen policy corresponding followed by the new value. So these are your global HSM policies. What you see on this Luna Shell console, these are your global HSM policies. I'm going to show you the partition level policies once the partition is created and once the partition is initialized. Yes, who is the question?
That's Chris.
Yes,
Chris.
yes.
Quick question. I know, like, you know, when you run that show policy, it shows you the ones that are destructive and not. If just out of curiosity, not that you expect to do it, but for example, if you're doing an HSM change policy and you choose one of those policies that are destructive, does the system warn you that this is a destructive policy?
Yes, yes. Let me show you that right away.
Yeah. Okay.
Policy value 0. It will give you a warning.
Okay.
Are you sure you wish to change the destructive policy?
Or destructive. Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
If you're not sure, you can press quit.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Policy template. So another very helpful feature if you have multiple. Yes, Raj.
On the previous screen, the value was 6. I don't. Where did you get that value from?
Okay, it's right here. HSM show policies. These are the code.
Okay. I didn't see that. Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Every policy have a unique value corresponding to them. Unique code corresponding to them, and value 0 and 1 you can configure.
Okay. Thank you.
So if you have multiple HSMs in your environment, you can use policy templates as well, where you configure the policy values on HSM number 1, export the template out, and at the time of configuring your HSM number 2, just use the same policy template. But the only catch in this particular setting is that policy template can only be applied at the time of HSM initialization or at the time of partition initialization. So, sorry, someone is on unmute. I'm not sure who. Okay, that changed. So if you want to, for your HSM number 2, if you want to have the same policy settings, then yes, you can use the policy template. But if the HSM is already initialized, then you cannot use policy template. Similarly, if you're initializing your partition for the first time, you can use the policy template for that as well. This is the sample policy template file. When you export the template out, this is how you will see the text value, but it is recommended do not change anything manually in this text file. Let it be as it is. Just use it for the time, just apply it on the HSM number 2 or partition number 2, but do not modify anything on the in the file directly. Now partitions, your partitions, they are the protected jail spaces where your application can store and they will utilize your cryptographic data. So your content stored here. Whenever needs to be processed, decrypted within the partition, the required cryptographic operation will take place within the partition boundary itself. There are two types of partition. One is your HSM administrative partition, and second is your application partition. So this administrative partition, always one. You always have one administrative partition. When you are initializing your HSM, in the backend you are just initializing this partition, your administrative partition. When you are providing the cloning domain, it is for this administrative partition. It is never visible to you from the HSM, never visible from the even from the client side. So your authentication secrets for your HSMs will be stored inside this administrative partition. Then you have your application partition, depending on how many licenses you have, depending on the model of HSMs you have. So these are your application partition. So if it is 700, maximum 5. If it is 750, maximum 20 application partition. If it is 790, maximum 100 application partition. So this depends on the model and licenses. This is always one. Your SO and PO have shared responsibilities when creating new application partition. So SO will create partitions and PO will take ownership over the partition, which we are going to see today. So currently we just have partition Nathan, but there is no one who can log into Nathan as of now. Someone have to take the ownership over Nathan partition, and that will be your PO. So this provides you both cryptographic and your administrative separation. SO, even though they are the administrator of the HSM, still they are not your key owner. This user cannot create objects, cannot delete objects within the partition. Each partition, they can be associated with one or more clients. It is possible that 3 different clients talking to one partition, or one client talking to 3 different partitions. So all those combinations are possible. Once you run the command to delete a partition, all the contents, they are gone. There is no recycle bin, there is no recovery which even Thales can do for you. Once the partition content are gone, they can never be restored. But yes, if you have a backup somewhere, if that partition is part of an HA group, then yes, you can recover, but nothing indirectly. No, there is no backdoor entry to recover your partition content. Multi-tenancy, your individual partition, they have their own set of hierarchy. They have their own set of users. So if 4 different applications, they are using the same hardware, still there is key separation, key isolation is there, because one partition, they have their own set of PO. They have their own set of crypto officer. They have their own set of crypto user. You have another application for TDE. This application, they have their own partition officer. They have their own crypto officer and they have their own crypto user. So this partition officer cannot modify any policy for this code signing application. So there is ownership over your partition, even though the hardware is same. So now some partition level roles which we will be initializing today. You have your partition officer, you have your crypto officer, and you have crypto user. For a password based HSMs, all these roles will be just a password, and for PET based HSM, today we will be configuring physical PET keys for these roles separately. Your PO represented by blue colored PET key. They are the administrator of a particular partition. They will manage the partition level policies, and they will initialize crypto officer. But still, they do not have any access to the key material. If the crypto officer logs out, or if the crypto officer forget their password, your PO can also reset the password for CO. Then you have your crypto officer. They are your application owner. They can do cryptographic operation like encryption, decryption, signing, verify, generating keys, deleting keys. If any application have a requirement to utilize crypto user, then yes, crypto officer can initialize crypto users as well, CU. Then you have finally you have crypto user, your optional role. Even if there is no crypto user, still your application can work. But yes, if this is your read-only user, which can do like signing, verify, encrypting, and decrypting, but they cannot create or delete your objects. This is crypto user. Crypto officer black pad key and crypto user represented by gray. Partition versioning. So folks, before I talk about partition versioning, any question folks, any queries, any curiosities, let me know.
Sorry, just a quick question. Doesn't it get confusing since the security officer, the SO, and the PO are both blue keys?
I totally agree with you, Chris. So let me show you the workaround for that, which you can do in your actual environment. That is using keychains. I know the PO and your SO, they all have the blue same ped key, and there is even no serial number written on them. Yes, there is serial number written on the rear, but you still don't have to use that. You can use keychains. You can have different keychains. You can also write. Let me show you another set where we have also written. So here, like we have written on every key. We have added some labels on every key. So this is another thing which you can use. But I totally agree with you. The color scheme is same for PO and SO. It is same because sometimes organization do have the same individual who is your SO and PO. So even in the training, when I'll be initializing my PO, for me, I'll also use the same ped key.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So you can. Some people do use the SO and PO as the same person. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Any other question, folks? Perfect. So partition versioning is a very new concept which was introduced in version 7.7. So far we just had one type of partition before 7.7, where you have your partition officer, you have your crypto officer, and you have your crypto user. So this is version 0, same, just like the traditional use cases. But for some scalable key storage functionality, we have introduced version 1 partition as well. In this version 1 partition, we have an option of additional roles as well, like LCO, limited crypto officer. So this is specifically for use cases like scalable key storage. So if you remember the storages which is available on the HSM, if you upgrade your HSM 790 to 7.7 or above, you get, let me see if someone remembers the memory. For 790, if you upgrade it to 7.7, how much memory do you get?
I can't remember. Was it
64?
64, I think.
Absolutely right, 64 MB. So if you upgrade your 790 to 7.7, then this is the maximum storage you get. So there are some use cases which for them 64 MB is not sufficient. They have millions of keys to manage. So for such use cases where the number of keys are very, very large, for that we have this version 1 partition where we have this master key. We call it scalable key storage master key, SMK. That master key is stored inside this version 1 partition, and those millions of keys reside outside the HSM in an encrypted form. They are stored in external databases or storages. Whenever those keys needs to be processed, any cryptographic operation needs to be done with the help of those keys, then that key blob sent on the HSM, they have the master key sitting in this version 1 partition. They will decrypt that encrypted blob. Required cryptographic operation will be done, and then your decrypted key will be gone. That means even though those million keys are lying outside, but still they fall under the scope of your HSM because they are encrypted with the master key. So again, some use cases require version 1. Most of the use cases still will be for them version 0 is enough, and this is the new introduction which we have done in 7.7 version. I saw someone raise their hand. Okay, now it's not longer there.
Yeah, that was me. That was me. So I got a question for you. So
yes.
So the upgrade that happens for the memory space when you choose to update it, right? To what is that, 7.7.1?
Right.
Is that what it is, right?
7.7 only. Yeah.
7.7. Okay, so is it that the hardware is already has the capabilities within it to expand to 64? I mean, how's that upgrade actually taking place? Because in my head, I'm just thinking hardware.
So you absolutely got that. You absolutely got that right way. The hardware already had that potential. Just with this new release, we are releasing that space. Maybe because of some previous restrictions, we had to save that space. But with 7.7 release, we are now just giving it away for your partition storages.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So your hardware always had that space. Now it is just available after this post release of 7.7. Yes, Avinash?
Yes, so that 32 MB or storage is to store the keys, right?
Right.
For the object.
Yeah.
Okay, and like other keys which are outside the HSM, so that could be exist on the cloud like AWS cloud,
Correct.
Azure cloud or on-premises. So we can get encrypt it here, and we can decrypt these also here. So in that case, does it require the space? Let's suppose I have the 32 MB storage and that storage has been full, or we can say 100% full, and I have to do the operation for the outside of storage key.
So let me talk about this SMK key first. This SMK key, this master key, is just your 256-bit AES key. This is the only key which will be stored inside your partition. So you don't have to worry about your space being utilized, or there is a limitation in your space to perform that decryption and perform that required operation. So SMK, you still have lots of space still left on the HSM to perform the required operation with version 1 partition.
Okay, got it. Sorry, just one thing. Like it's 32 MB storage for the this storage for the key, where we can store the keys, right? It's not a memory of that particular appliance, right?
No. Yes, it is storages for your So if let me draw a table again. 7.7 or less than 7.7 and 7.7 above. So it is like 2, 16 and 32. This becomes 4, 32 and 64. This is your storages for your partition and the objects which are stored inside your partition. So this is for that, and everything is in MB.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about this after the first break. So any questions, folks, before we wrap up our session number 1 for day 2, sorry. Perfect. So let me start the timer, and folks who are still facing some issues with the portal, please ping me on the chat or I can help you with that. See you in 15, folks. Thank you. Welcome back everyone to session number 2 for day 2. Quick audio and screen test. I hope I'm audible and screen is also visible to all. Thanks Chris, Jerry, Avinash. Okay, so let's continue with module number 3. Mohammed, thank you. So folks, if you have to create your partition and if you have to initialize your partitions, before 7.7, you just had this method number 1. So here, what we just did, your security officer, they create your empty partition. Your SO will register client with the HSM. So these two steps, let me use the pen here. So these two steps are done on Luna SH. These two steps are done on Luna shell. Then from the client side, using Luna CM, your partition officer will log in into the partition. They will take the ownership. They will log in and they will initialize crypto officer. So this was method 1, which is still supported, but it is the only method which was there before 7.7. But if you have upgraded to 7.7.1 and above, then you have these two methods as well. The second method number 2 as well, where all these operation, creating partition, initializing PO, initializing crypto officer, all these steps can also be done from Luna shell. But for that, the minimum version required is 7.7.1. So you can use both the options as per the requirement. If you want to initialize the partition and then give those credentials to application, you can use method number 2. If you want your application to take ownership over the partition from the application side using Luna CM, they can use method number 1. So both of the features are available. Partition activation. So folks, your crypto officer is the one who can log in into the partition and perform your encryption, decryption and such cryptographic operation. If you have a password based HSM, that's fine. Your crypto officer will just need to provide a password, do a login procedure and do the required cryptographic operation. But let's assume if you have a PET based HSM, let's say after every 5 minutes, your crypto officer have to log in and do some cryptographic operation. So in case of PET based HSM, after every 5 minutes, your physical PET key will need to be provided and the PIN needs to be provided for that. So imagine this tedious task to be done after every 5 minutes. So for that we have a workaround called as partition activation, where you can activate the partition. That means the combination of your physical PET key and PIN, this combination, this authentication secret will be cached on the HSM. This secret stored on site on your HSM, and this will be protected with a password. So whenever your application needs to log in as crypto officer, they will just provide this challenge password. And we all know with the help of password, automation is possible. So to automate this crypto officer login procedure, you can use the concept of partition activation. This is a partition level policy which controls whether your partition is activated or not, which is policy number 22. So if you have multiple PET based HSM, you have multiple PET partition, then individually the PO needs to log in and change this partition policy number 22, and which we're gonna see today as well. Then you have this policy number 23, which is auto activation. So auto activation provides you this 2-hour threshold in case your HSM is down for some time. if there is no power connectivity on the with the HSM, or HSM went down due to some reasons, and if HSM is back again in 2 hours, then your partition will still be considered activated. That means if the crypto officer needs to log in, they still can use the password. But if this 2-hour window is exceeded, if the HSM was powered off for more than 2 hours, then if crypto officer needs to log in, they have to provide this physical ped key and pin once. Once they provide it, then again your partition is activated again. So activation, that is using this challenge password. Auto activation means if the outage, if the HSM is down for less than 2 hours, your partition is still activated. Still a password is enough for a crypto officer to log in. So this is also controlled by partition level policy, which is 23. Both partition policy 20 and 23, they are non-destructive. Does anyone else here have a password based HSM? So if you have any folks, so again, whatever the commands which I'm running, they are exactly the same. You just don't have to be using the physical pin entry device. Other than that, every mechanics, every principle is same between PED and password. Just this additional authentication needs to be done using PED devices. For example, in PED based HSM, in password based HSM, if I run the command HSM login, it will not ask me to provide the physical PED key. Straight away it will ask me to provide a password. So other than that, you will not see any difference in password and PED HSM. Similarly, your concept of activation is only applied on PED based HSM because you already have password for your password based HSM. For a crypto officer, crypto user, you already have their password. The only role which will be activated if you allow 22 and 23 will be crypto officer and crypto user. These are the only 2 roles which will be activated, which can log in with password if policy number 22 and 23 are allowed. Your partition officer PO always needs to provide the blue physical PED key and the pin. Partition sizing, we know that partition can be resized. You can specify the size of partition at the time of creation as well, or if you do not specify any parameter, like when we created Nathan partition, I did specified any size. So this auto calculation take place, that is total size divided by total number of partition. So in this example, if you have total 16 MB of storage and you have licenses for 10 partition, so every partition if you create, it will be of 1.6 MB. That's a default calculation that will take place. You can always resize if you want with the help of, let me allow you to guess which user can resize the partition.
بص يا محمود خليك برضه يوم الاحد ما تاخدش في
PO?
حاجه لان هو غالبا معاك بكره ده هيتعمل الاحد.
One SPO, one chat I've received SO.
عايزك تبقى موجود برضه في الميتنج ده ان شاء الله.
What other things? One more for PO. Okay, this is interesting. So now majority is with PO. Okay, now it's balance. SO. SO, another one for SO. Who can create partition? Sorry,
SO.
Yusuf is the. No. Yusuf asked me in the chat, so.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
No, it's not a question. Who can create a partition can resize it.
Yep, absolutely right, Yusuf. So whoever can create partition can resize it, and so the answer is
I think.
SO. SO.
I'm not sure. PO.
No, I'm telling the answer. I'm giving up the answer. It is SO. Yeah. So your security officer is your HSM administrator. He is the one who can manage your HSM level resources. How much space one partition should have, how much space second partition should have. So this will be decided by your security officer. HSM security officer can do partition resizing. One partition itself cannot say, okay, no, I want to be 3.2 MB. No, it is your SO that will do this resizing for you, security officer. So I hope the folks who have selected other than SO, this is now clear to all. Perfect. Partition naming. So if you see here, this is Luna shell, this is Luna CM. You have a name for your partition on your HSM, and you also have a label to identify it on the client side. It is again not important for those labels to match. You can call your partition Nathan on your HSM, and you can call your partition Nathan2 on the client side. So they do not need to match. But again, if you want to rechange it, if you want to rename your partition on the HSM, that's a command, partition rename hyphen the old name and hyphen new name. If you want to change the label for the partition on the client side, this is the command, partition change label followed by new label. So these labels, they do not need to match, but totally up to the organization, even if they want to keep the same naming convention. As of now, we have not seen this Luna CM interface, but yes, end of the day, by today, end of the session, you will be seeing this Luna CM console. Yes, Avinash?
I have just one question regards to the previous master key. So like storage master key, SMA key. So in that case, there will be a double encryption will be happen, or double description, like
So you can consider it as a concept of key wrapping. Okay, so your keys, which will be operational keys, your keys which will be actually doing signing or doing your verification process, those keys will be encrypted. They will be wrapped with the master key, and they will be stored outside in an external databases. Whenever those operational keys need to serve the next operation, they need to perform a signing operation. That encrypted blob sent to the partition, unwrapped with the master key, decrypted with the SMK key, perform when you have the decrypted key, perform the required operation, and then again gone. There is no double encryption happening, so your operational keys are encrypted and decrypted within the HSM boundary. Your data is only encrypted or signed only once.
Okay. It's just wrap it on second.
Wrap. Yep. Utilization metrics. So if you want to measure the number of particular cryptographic operation one of the partition have done, you can enable this partition utilization metrics. There is a partition level policy number 49 which will control that. Policy number 49. You can also measure same utilization stats if you are using Crypto Command Center, CCC. If you don't know about what CCC is, we'll be introducing CCC on day 4 as well. Now about different modes of operation for your partition. If your partition is version 0 partition, the legacy partition, then you have two options, cloning or key export. This is for version 0. If you have the new partition, we only have one mode of operation, that is scalable key storage. You always have this master key in this partition. But these are the two legacy modes, that is cloning and key export, which we're going to talk about in the next slides. So now cloning versus key export. So if you have version 0 partition, your partition can be either in key cloning or key export, or none of them. So in cloning mode, you are allowed that your keys, your objects, they can be cloned, they can be copied within the same cloning domain. That is, if you want to add your partitions in an HA group, if you want to take the backup of your content, or if you want to migrate the content to any future HSM, then your HSM partition should be in key cloning mode. So cloning is allowed in key cloning mode. What you cannot do in key cloning, you cannot export, you cannot wrap your private keys to an encrypted file and get it out of the HSM. So cloning is allowed, so one partition to another partition, that movement is allowed, but outside the HSM scope, you cannot move the private keys. Second mode is key export, where you cannot do backup operation, you cannot add your partition in an HA group. However, you are allowed to wrap or get your HSM contents, private keys, as an encrypted file. That is, the wrapping is supported in case of key export mode. So if you have a BYOK implementation, key export partition can be used for those use cases. But if you have a requirement of HA, if you have a requirement of backup and restore or migration in future, then partition must be in key cloning mode. A single partition can be either in key cloning or key wrapping. There's a partition level policy 0 and 1 which will control that. One partition cannot do both. They cannot be both key cloning or both key wrapping. They cannot do that. But again, it is possible that key cloning also 0, key wrapping also 0. So can anyone just guess what will be the impact on the keys if key cloning is 0 and key wrapping is also 0? What will happen to your key material? If I'm blocking key wrapping, I'm blocking key cloning, what will happen to the key content?
You'll remove it. So if you go from one to switch from one to another, it kills all of your keys.
Yes, that is about changing, but what will happen to the content if the partition policy 0, that is key cloning is 0, disabled, and key wrapping is also 0? What if I am restricting key cloning and key wrapping? What do you think will happen to the partition contents? So whatever you said, Nathan, that's right. If I go from 0 to 1.
So
yeah. Sorry.
It's a restrictive policy, so I guess the partition content will be clear.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So my question is, what if my partition policy 0, that is key cloning, is disabled? So this policy, the value is 0, and this is also 0. What will happen to my cryptographic content? Yeah.
So by default, when you get the HSMs or create the partitions, that policy 0 is going to be 1, and then 1 is going to be 0. So the only way to end up getting the policy 0 to 0 is it's going to wipe all of your contents that are in it. So but if you put it that way, it's going to wipe it. But at that point, it allows you to change. If you want 1 to be activated, it'll allow you to activate it. That's the only way to change one of these values to 1. I don't know if this answers your question, but yeah.
No, so absolutely right. So policy 0 and 1, if I change it to any of them, this is a destructive policy. So Nathan, my question is, at this moment, my partition policy 0 is disabled. Partition policy 1 is also disabled. Now I start creating some object. Now if I create some objects, what will happen to those objects? What will be the impact on those? Yep.
They would just stay in that HSM. You won't be able to export it. You won't be able to clone it.
Absolutely right. So there, if my partition policy 0 key cloning is disabled, if my partition policy key export is also disabled, we call it no backup mode. Nothing is allowed. If the content is created, they can now never move out of the HSM partition. So this might be useful for use cases which have a requirement of very short life cycle of key. Every 15 minutes they are updating their keys. So for those use cases, key cloning doesn't make sense. Key export doesn't make sense. So they can disable both the policies. But both of them can never be one. Both of them, key cloning and key export, cannot be allowed together. It will be either key cloning, either key export, or none of them. That is the only 3 supported combination. So like Nathan mentioned earlier, like Algappan mentioned earlier, these 2 policies are destructive policy. You have to decide, folks, whether you want your partitions to be in key cloning or key export. Because if you change the policies after creating the objects, all the contents will be gone. So make sure you discuss with your application team the use cases. Depending on that, create key cloning partition or create your key export partition. A single HSM can have few partitions that are in key cloning, few partitions that are key export. But one partition cannot do both the key cloning and key export operation. So if you have, let's say if you have 5 partition in your HSM, few can be key cloning, few can be export, few can be no backup mode, nothing. All the value must be setting before creating keys? Absolutely. Before creating objects, you must decide key cloning, key export, or no backup mode before creating objects. Yes, Jimmy? Okay, perfect. So now about FIPS operational mode. So we already know there are 2 sets of policies, one at HSM level and one at partition level. So there is a policy at HSM level which is policy number 12, enable non-FIPS algorithm. So if this policy is 0, your HSM is in FIPS mode. Currently, if enable non-FIPS algorithm is 0, HSM is running in FIPS mode because you are restricting non-FIPS algorithm. So at HSM level, if you are restricting non-FIPS algorithm, that is at your HSM level, if you are running in FIPS mode, then all your partition will run in FIPS mode. But if at HSM level you are allowing non-FIPS algorithm, so HSM as a whole non-FIPS mode, but at partition level now you can restrict whether to be in FIPS mode or non-FIPS mode. So policy number 43 at partition level and policy number 12 at HSM level. This policy configured by your security officer, and these policies configured by your individual partition security officer, PO. And all these policies are destructive. This policy is destructive at HSM level. This policy is destructive for a particular partition. STM mode. So STM mode is a way to securely transport your device from one location to another. Yesterday we talked about the physical verification. When you receive the devices from Thales, you can physically inspect the boxes, the wrapping bag, and the serial number. We also enable STM when we are shipping the appliances. When we ship the appliance, we will send you this information: random user string and a verification string. So whenever you receive the appliances from us, you do STM recovery. Even for the backup HSM, if you recently have purchased G7 backup HSM from us, definitely STM will be enabled for those devices. You have to do STM recovery before you can start using your HSMs. So let's understand how STM works. You have your existing HSM. There are some contents within your HSM. You run the command HSM STM transport. So this command will place your HSM in secure transport mode. Once you run this command, there will be some internal checks that will take place, and it will generate these two strings: a verification string and a random user string. You can verify whether your HSM is in STM mode, yes or no, using the command HSM show. So let's say you want to move your appliances from, let's say, Ottawa to Vancouver. So you have appliances in Ottawa, place your appliances in STM mode, run this command. It is your security officer who can run this command. Note down these two values, get this information in Vancouver, and when the devices arrive at Vancouver data center, run your recovery. HSM STM recover. At the time of recovery, one of the input will be your random user string, which was generated in step number 1. Again, it will do that logical checks, and the output will be verification string. If this string is matching with the string that was generated on step number 1, that means during this transit, no one accessed your appliance. There is no changes, nothing happened, no access took place to your appliance. And this way, you can proceed that HSMs were transported securely. So whenever we are shipping the appliances, we are enabling this STM mode, and we will send you this information: random user string and a verification string. So once you receive the devices from us, you will do recovery, you will enter this random user string, and the output will be verification string. So these are the two ways to avoid any man-in-the-middle attack, even when we are shipping the appliance from Thales, or if you are migrating your devices from one DC to another. This brings towards the end of our module number 3. Any question, folks, from this module before we continue to the next one? Perfect. So let me start module number 4 quickly. Going back to cloning, why can't the cloning and key export both be enabled? So Anthony, to be honest, I'm not sure why this restriction is made, but I mean, they want to separate these use cases completely. They want to make these use cases completely separate, because if they want to allow the private keys to be cloned, they never want to get those keys out of the HSM. So to be honest, I'm not too much sure about why this restriction was made, why key cloning and key export cannot be enabled together, but this is how the architecture is as of now. So Nathan or anyone else, if they have that information, please feel free to add to it.
I don't. I came across this a few months ago with an application, and I honestly don't remember what our sales engineer said on the reason on why. So,
thank you, Nathan. So one question was asked here: do you have any demo to configure Luna backup G7, and how can we verify the verification string? So yes, tomorrow we have some demonstrations on G7. I can manually place the device in STM mode and show you the recovery process also. So yes, that can be done. That I'll show you tomorrow. There's one question. Avinash, yes, Avinash.
So this Luna HSM does support for the Docker container as well. Like any of the application is running on platform OpenShift platform.
Yep.
So does they allow to do this as a client?
Yes, we have some Docker implementations which are working with Luna HSM. Yes.
Okay, means the that 7.7 is support for the OpenShift platform as well.
Yes.
To run our
Yes.
app. Okay. So for that, we have any additional documentation for that? How to use that, or is there anything?
So try to log into the customer portal and look for documentation there. If you are unable to find it, let me know, and I can also try to find that internally.
Okay.
The corresponding KB article, which you can, find it. Perfect.
Okay.
Folks, now we're gonna move our focus towards client side, because we require something at the client side, some configuration from the client side, so that they can now talk to our HSMs. So we're going to talk about this important piece of software, Luna HSM client software. Then we're going to talk about two different methods to establish your connection from the client with the HSM. They are NTLS and STC, Network Trust Link Service, or Secure Trusted Channel, STC. So now we have an application. That application have a requirement to securely manage their cryptographic keys. For that, they have an integration with Luna HSM. First, you configure your appliance, you configure the networking, admin credentials, and then you initialize your HSM. You configure your orange pet key, you configure your HSM security officer, you configure the cloning domain. If you require auditing, you want to see what is happening on the HSM, you can initialize audit officer as well. So these roles are before you start using your HSM. Then we install Luna HSM client software on the application, which is mandatory. Because once you install Luna HSM client software, we provide you different APIs, different DLLs that can be used to establish secure connection with the Luna HSM appliance. Once the connection is established, we already saw method number 1, where from the client side, the partition ownership could be taken. They could initialize PO, they could create the partition cloning domain, they can initialize crypto officer and crypto user, everything from the client side. With method number 2, these roles can also be created from the Luna shell, but it is totally up to you whether you want to use method 1 or 2. So Luna HSM client, we already saw this screen capture from my Windows installation about which kind of devices will be using your Luna client installation and which feature you want to install. Folks, make sure you read the customer release note to verify whether a particular operating system is supported with your Luna client installation or not. As of now, Mac OS is not supported for Luna client installation. So if you have Mac in your environment, you have to deploy a virtual machine and then use Luna client on that. So make sure can you show previous slide again? So here's the previous slide. Perfect. So make sure you see you review the customer release note before installing a particular version of Luna client in your environment. So we have customer release note for Luna client. We also have customer release note for your HSM versions as well. So please read the compatibility metrics between them as well. This is the screen capture for one of the version. So folks, it is very important that you do Luna client installation with your admin or your sudo privileges. The reason behind that is there will be a configuration file that will be generated, and that configuration file will control how your Luna client interacts with your HSMs. It will have information like the location of your certificates, the timeout values. So critical configuration for your Luna client interaction with the appliance will be there in that configuration file. You do not want any user to simply log in and change that file. So please make sure you do Luna client installation with admin or sudo privileges. Once we install Luna client, we also provide you some utilities. So those utilities, they are for your testing purposes, for proof of concepts, demonstrations, troubleshooting if you want to troubleshoot your HSM connectivity from the client side. But again, they are not meant directly to be used in production, but they can help you a lot. Today in the demo, we're going to see some of those utilities as well. So some of them are CMU, CKDemo, multi-token, your performance monitoring utility, SA login, RBS. We talked about RBS at the time of backup. So RBS and VTL. So Luna CM, your client-side administrative command interface. Utilities are included. Yes, yes, Jamie. With the default Luna client installation, these utilities are inbuilt. You don't have to run anything to install them separately. They are inbuilt. We're gonna have some demos using those utilities today as well. So your Luna CM, you have your Luna shell, your HSM side administrative interface, then you have Luna CM, which is your client side interface to run some operation like if you have to set up NTLS STC, HA, entire HA configuration can be done using Luna CM, entire HA configuration. PED, connecting PED, disconnecting PED, will be using this a lot of time with the help of Luna CM. Partition configuration, today we have to initialize Nathan partition, so for that we'll use Luna CM. And tomorrow, once we have some contents created, we'll do the backup of those cryptographic content again using Luna CM. So very, very powerful client side utility, Luna CM. VTL, so I know some folks have worked with Luna 5 HSMs, so definitely you guys are aware of VTL for sure. So this is another utility for like registering your HSM on the client, generating your self-signed certificate, verifying your connectivity with the HSM. If you want to enable CK log, so for that you will be using VTL interface. CK demo, so written using PKCS11, and every command is text based. You want to create object, you want to delete object, you want to create a key, you want to delete a key, everything is text based. That is CK demo written on PKCS11. CMU, your certificate management utility, creating self-signed certificate, exporting certificate, generating key pair, listing the content on the partition. CMU can be utilized for that. I'll be running some demos on CMU, CK demo, multi-token today. Multi-token, very, very crucial, your performance monitoring tool. If you want to see the operation per second for a particular HSM, you can use multi-token for that. So we're going to run multi-token today when we just have one HSM. We're gonna again run multi-token when we have HA created. So you can see operation per second will be different. SA login. So some of the utility like OpenSSL, these applications, they do not have any built-in authentication mechanism. So for such applications, SA login work as your application proxy. So SA login will open a persistent session for OpenSSL. Then using OpenSSL, you can run the required operation, and then SA login can close the session for you. So this SA login is just your application proxy, opening a session on the Luna HSM on behalf of a particular application. Configuration file, this is the file christoki.ini. This is on Windows, and christoki.conf, this is on Linux. So this file is in the same folder. If you have not changed the default folder, it will be in C, program file, SafeNet, and Luna client. I'm going to show you this file in my setup today. So this controls your HSM communication, the location of the DLLs, the location of the certificate files, the location of the private key file, the timeouts values for your remote paired server, your HA configuration, everything will be on this client configuration file. So very, very important to have a backup of this file somewhere. If you want to, you can take the backup as well. Yes, Avinash?
Let's suppose if we miss this file or something wrong happened with this particular file, client configuration. So does have impact on that particular partition of content?
It will have impact on the entire client. So if you have this file sitting on my this client as of now, if I delete this file from Luna client folder, Christo, this configuration file, if I remove it from the client folder, then I'll not be able to communicate with any of the HSM. I cannot see any partition. This controls all my DLL's location. If you have RBS, so whenever you do some interaction with the HSM, in the backend, this file will be updated. The location of certificate file, information about your HSM, everything is updated in this file. So it is not just one partition you will not be able to see. The entire client will be impacted if this file is damaged or deleted from the location.
Okay, and let's suppose if we reinstall that particular client.
Yep.
So that will work for the existing connection?
Okay, so let's say you have your Luna client and you want to just update this Luna client software. This is 10.3 and you want to update it to 10.5. In that case, if you uninstall 10.3 and then reinstall 10.5, then automatically this configuration file will be restored. You don't have to do anything. But yes, again, if the file is completely deleted, then again, automatic recovery is not there in such cases.
Okay. Means we can upgrade those particular client as well.
Correct.
Whenever
Yep. So just recommendation, let's say you are on 10.3, you want to migrate it to 10.5, your client, just take backup of this file to a different server, upgrade to 10.5. First of all, automatically this configuration file will be restored automatically. But still, it is best practice to have a backup somewhere.
Okay. And let's suppose I have two clients. One is for application A and application B, and application A have this client configuration file, or somehow my client B application I missed that particular file or corrupted any reason. So in that case, can I use the application A file to the application B?
Yep. Good question, Avinash. So this depends whether you are using different sets of certificate for application A or application B. Because if you see here, there's also location about certificate files. So if these files are different, then you can also migrate the configuration file, but you have to manually update some parameters as well. For example, if this server certificate file is different, then you have to change the file manually as well. So there are some configuration that can be unique to a particular application as well.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So your configuration file, very important file in your client side. And now about NTLS and STC. Two different methods. Today we're going to cover NTLS, and we're also going to see that in the demonstration. So before our second break, we're going to cover the theory for NTLS, and right away after in the final session, everything is demonstration where we'll be using NTLS, configuring NTLS, and using our HSM tools. So now NTLS, your network trust link service. So these are the two options you have, NTLS or STC, to communicate from the client side to the appliance. NTLS, this is based on two-way digital certificate authentication. On your HSM, you have server.pem file. On the Luna clients, you have your client certificate file. Send the client certificate on the HSM. Send the server.pem file on the client. Register your HSM on the client. Register your client on the HSM. Done. You have your secure tunnel established. If you want to use self-signed certificates, you can use that. If you want to have your in-house third-party CA to sign those certificates, you can use them as well. So totally up to you whether you want to use self-signed or externally signed certificates. So based on two-way digital certificate authentication, your NTLS link is established. The connection is between the client and the NIC of the appliance. So folks, this is one of the major difference between your NTLS and STC. I'm going to draw this diagram today, and tomorrow when we talk about STC, I'll be back on this diagram. This is your appliance. This is your HSM. Inside your HSM, you have a partition. This is your client. In case of NTLS, the encryption is still the NIC. Then from the NIC, the request will be sent to the HSM and then to the corresponding partition. This is NTLS for you. Tomorrow I'm going to come back to the same diagram. I'm going to show you the difference. But again, just to give you an idea, this is STC. Direct communication between client directly till the partition interface. Here it is from the client till the NIC, and then you are forwarding this request to the partition. So your tunnel and the data, they are encrypted with using TLS. The port number is 1792 for your NTLS communication. This is a TCP port. At a given time, 800 simultaneous NTLS connection are supported. 800 total. So this is a good practice that you are closing your sessions from the client side once the required cryptographic operation is done. Don't keep the sessions open because you have limit in terms of number of simultaneous connection, 800. So if you want to regenerate your certificate, there is a command sysconf regen cert as well. But whenever you regenerate the certificate file, the new certificate file for your server needs to be updated on all of your client. So make sure you are updating your clients, your HSM certificate on all the client. if you are running this command. So today in the demo we'll be using VTL to generate self-signed CA certificates and do this NTLS registration. If you want to bifurcate your management traffic with your cryptographic traffic, there's also an option for that. Sorry about that. So this is your bond 0. This is your bond 1. You can say use this bond for my NTLS traffic. This is your cryptographic traffic. And you can say use this bond for my SSH traffic. This is your administrative or your management traffic. So if you have sufficient number of ETHs available in the data center, you can bifurcate your cryptographic traffic with the management traffic as well. Whitelisting based on IP addresses and hostname is also possible. So if the request coming from a client falls under that whitelist, the request will be served. Otherwise, the request will be refused. So in case of NTLS, today we'll be generating your HSM certificate, generating your client certificate, sending the certificate from the HSM to the client, sending the client certificate from the HSM, and doing the registration. Partition, the name with the name Nathan is already created. We just have to assign that partition to my client. Once the partition is assigned, today we'll see method number 1, where from the client side PO will be created, followed by crypto officer that will be created. And we're going to see that after the break. All these are multiple commands to generate certificate, transfer certificate, doing the registration. But also there is a single command to do that, all these steps via single command as well. Using Luna CM, we have this shortcut client config deploy, and all these steps can be done with the help of single command. I'm going to demo both the options for you to understand, and after that you can decide which option you prefer in production. But again, it is important to see method number 1, this one, to see what is happening in the background if you are running this command. So folks, any question before we take our second break for the day?
For Luna CM, is it downloadable?
Is it? Sorry, what?
Can we download the application?
Yes. So as soon as you install Luna client, here, you get Luna CM automatically. This is the tool you automatically get.
Okay.
This is your Luna CM.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other question, folks? Okay, so I'm quickly gonna bring quiz number 2 so that the final session will just see some demos. So feel free to share your answers in the chat. Not a long quiz. So your Luna 7 HSMs are FIPS 140-2 level certified. Nathan, Anthony thinks it's C. Yusuf, Salva, Jerry, Chris, Raj, everyone is going for C. 3 again. Jason also thinks it's C. Absolutely right, folks. Our PED and password Luna 7 models, they both are FIPS 140-2 level 3 certified. A single partition can be in both key cloning and key export mode. Is it true or false? Majority went with B, false. Mohammed, Justin, Chris, Jimmy thinks it's B, false. Absolutely right, folks. A partition can be either in key cloning or key export mode, or it can be in no backup mode as well, where policy 0, that is for key cloning, and policy 1, they both are disabled. So folks, this is a multiple choice question. So there should be check boxes here. So in the certification exam, if you see check boxes, so assume that as a multiple choice question. So it is, what roles are required for installing a license file? If you have to install a license file, which roles are required? So got two combinations, A and D and A and C. Just A and D, C and D, okay. AD, Jason, Ada also going with A and D, Chris also going with A and D, okay. So folks, the right combination is, Sabah also thinks A and D, ILU also A and D, okay. So the right combination is A and D. Your admin user, your appliance level role responsible for sending the file to the HSM, and then your security officer to initiate the license installation, to install the package. SO will do that. So admin and security officer, these are the two roles. The recover account can be used to reset the password for which user? The recover account. Again, majority went with A. Absolutely right. Recover can reset the password for only your admin account, and in order to do that, they cannot SSH into the appliance. They have to go to the data center, establish a console connection to log in. And the password is for recover user?
Password of all uppercase.
All uppercase. Absolutely right, case. Yusuf?
Quick question.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, the recover can it also resets the appliance operator, monitor, and audit account too, right? Or
No. So only admin.
On the admin, okay, perfect.
Yeah. Once you know the password for admin user can now reset password for other accounts.
Exactly, that's true. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. True or false? Your crypto user, they can delete the private keys within your partition. Raj, Nathan, Jason, Yusuf, Eda, Jamie, Avinash, Mahmoud. Everyone thinks this is B. Sabah. False? Absolutely right. Crypto user, read-only user. If you want to delete or create, crypto officer privilege is required. And the final question from this quiz. Partition policy 22 and 23, they are set to yes. Your crypto officer credentials are currently cached, and you reboot your appliance. Reboot only take 3 to 4 minutes, not more than that. Once you reboot, do you need to provide the PED keys for the crypto officer role? Reboot, keeping in mind reboot only takes few minutes. Avinash, Jason, everyone thinks it's no. Yep, we have 2 hours. Absolutely right, Yusuf. No, you do not require your PED credentials for crypto officer because your partition is activated. Policy auto activation, that is policy number 23, that is also enabled. So you have this 2 hours grace period. But if only 22, let's say if 22 is yes and 23 is no, in that case after every reboot you have to provide the PED keys, because if 23 is not there, you do not have even a single minute as a grace period. So this brings towards the end of our quiz. Thank you everyone for participating. I'll start the timer and see you in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Will the certification exam will also have the same questions like this?
Good question, Algappan. So this is just to make you folk familiarize with the pattern. The question in the exam will be much different, and it will be much more, I believe, I would say, harder than you are seeing in the quiz. So
Wouldn't we have like couple of harder questions in this training as well?
I mean, I wanted to add some question, but in that way, I will be giving up the certification exam questions, and I think I have promised two of them already. I forgot to whom I promised. Let me remember. Let me try to remember who I promised two questions. Anthony, I think it was Anthony, right? Who have
No,
to
that
give
was
two?
it was Taraj.
Okay, okay.
Just kidding. I think it was Nathan or Anthony. So I thought it was Nathan. It could have been Anthony, but I thought it was
So
Nathan.
the okay, Nathan will take it. So
It was
okay, folks.
Anthony.
Okay, folks. See you in 15. Thank you.
Sometimes you may want to customize your virtual machine and all of the hardware and settings and configurations that go along with it, and that's what build. So create it ISO. This is the we're going to installation Eve Slack and community, but that's what we want to use in order to get this up and running. So I'm going to choose to download this from the Google Mirror. I'm going to choose Google and definitely into my data store. This is my preferred way of handling this. So I'm going to choose my spinning disks. In my downloads, I see upload status like that in order to register a new virtual. Starting, I'm going to click and then spin 60-byte solid state CPUs. And I'm just going to change this to gigabytes real quick and a minimum of 8 gigs. Beyond that, I want a minimum virtual network to be attached to my VM network. Now, in the previous video, we talked about why, because we set up promiscuous mode on that port group. If you haven't watched that previous
الو يا محمد. تمام الحمد لله. لا لسه والله. اه ايه انت عامل ايه؟
الحمد لله والله.
ابوك لقى الورقة هنا في الدرج ايه؟
خليها عندكم بقى، انا كده كده لازم اروح النقابة الصراحة.
انت سألت على الصفحة اللي انا بعتها لك دي؟
ما انا عمال بكتب الارقام اللي موجودة ما بيردوش.
ما هو يا ابني الصبح اكيد ما نايمين دلوقتي.
لا من الصبح، انا كنت جبت الصفحة من بدري
اه
من الساعة 2 كده او
هو انت اخر مرة مجدد امتى؟
Welcome
ما انتش
back
فاكر؟
everyone to our third session for day 2.
2017 يعني
Quick audio
6 سنين.
and screen test. Thank you, Chris,
ماشي، ما هو انا بقول لك هي السنة مش هتعدي ال 100 جنيه يعني.
Jimmy, Jason. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
طيب
So, folks, before this session, we created a partition with name Nathan. So, if you observe here,
ما هو
when
ده
we created
عندنا
the
برضه.
partition, we didn't specify the version of the partition.
مم.
So, the default
يا
is
عم النقابة كده
version
كده
0.
النقابة قدام بيبقى ليها
But if
فوايد
you
يعني.
have a requirement to create version 1 partition, you will just run the command partition create hyphen partition, let's say Raj, and then you will say version 1. So this is how you will create version 1. But if you do not specify this,
الصبح برن
all the
ابعت لهم على
partition
الواتساب
that will
حتى
be
بالرقم اللي
created
انا
will be
بعته
version
بالصفحة
0.
ديت عليها رقم واتساب ابعت لهم عليه.
So now, as of now, we have this partition installed on HSM 192.168.0.10.
مش عارف
Not installed,
والله.
but
جرب خلي
created
ده
on
تروح
this HSM. And then we have this client which have Luna client already installed 192.168.0.32. This is my client IP. So now we're going to start with multi-step client registration. Multiple steps for registering my client on the HSM. So the first step is we will create a self-signed certificate using VTL. Folks, let me know if the font is okay or should I increase it further. The font is okay for everyone. Perfect. Okay, VTL create cert -n, and now we'll create the client certificate. So 192.168.0.32. This is my client IP. So this file automatically created in this directory. Now if you want to regenerate your HSM certificate, if you want to regenerate your certificate file, so it will be automatically created when you initialize your HSM. But however, if you want to regenerate it, it will be sysconf regen cert. You can run this command and automatically a new certificate will be generated. But still, let's use the old one. Now we have a utility called as PSCP. So we have to do two things. First, send the certificate file to the appliance, and second, get the server.pem file on my client. So PSCP is a utility on Windows, and the name of that same utility is SCP on Linux. So PSCP admin will use the admin credentials for the HSM. We will get server.pem file and store it in the current directory. Admin password. Done. Server.pem file fetched from the appliance and stored on the client. Similarly, we'll send the client certificate file to the HSM using PSCP cert /client /192.32.pem. We'll again use admin credential for this transfer. Admin password again. Done. We send the client certificate file on the HSM. Now we will register my HSM on the client. So the command is VTL add server -n 192.168.0.10 my HSM IP using the server.pem file which we just downloaded. Server successfully added. If you want to verify, VTL list server is also available to see which all HSM is currently registered on the client. VTL list server. Now we'll go to the HSM side. If you verify my file list, so we just received this particular certificate file, and using this certificate file, my client certificate file, I will register my client on the HSM. So the command is client register -client -IP done. My client successfully registered on the HSM. You can verify all the registered client using the command client list. So now my HSM knows about my client certificate. My client knows about my HSM certificate. But if I run this command VTL verify, I still cannot see any partition as of now. Can anyone tell me why? Why is that? There is connectivity to and fro, but still I cannot see any partition.
Because you've not initialized the partition yet.
I have not initialized the partition yet, but again, that is something else which we'll do later.
Oh.
Yep, that is not the root cause. I'm not
Okay.
seeing this partition.
Okay.
Nathan. Yeah.
Did
Anyone
you
else?
register your client to the HSM?
Yes, I did.
Okay, you did.
It is both ways. So HSM registered here, and the answer is already given away by Justin. So yes, HSM.
Assign the partition.
Yep, assign the partition. So my HSM registered on the client, my client registered on the HSM, but still I cannot see this Nathan partition because I have to assign this partition Nathan to this particular client. So if I run the command client assign partition -client partition, sorry, go ahead.
Are you doing that on the Luna CM, right?
This is on Luna Shell.
Okay.
This is
sorry.
my Luna Shell, yeah.
Oh.
Hy-
Oh, I see.
hyphen, yeah. So whatever you see on the yellow font,
Yes,
this
yes,
is
yes,
client.
exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't have my window open properly. That's why.
No worries, no worries. And the name of the partition is Nathan. Done. Now if I run the command VTL verify, let's see the difference. I can see this slot ID, this serial number, and this blank label. So anyone knows what this blank label means? What
It's a label that you would give to that partition on
Yep.
the client itself.
Yep. But what this blank label is denoting for the partition?
Partition
It's not initialized.
Absolutely right.
Yep.
Not initialized. So this label, blank label, means this partition with this serial number, I can see it, but it is not yet initialized. Rightly so, because when we ran this command to create partition Nathan, we just created it. We didn't initialize it yet. So whatever you just saw was this multi-level command, where multi-step commands, different commands to generate certificate, different commands to transfer certificate, and then finally different commands to register. So what if all these steps can be replaced with a single command? Let's see that. Let me quickly undo everything. Client revoke partition, client hyphen partition Nathan. Client revoke partition successful. Client list. Removing the client entry as well. Client delete hyphen client. Removing the client entry as well. Coming back to my client interface. VTL delete server. Okay, before I run this command, let me show you the configuration file. So there must be information about my HSM IP somewhere. Control F 192.168. This is my, so you see this is automatically updated. So automatically whenever I do the registration, this file is automatically updated. So that's why you should be installing it with admin privileges. Delete server -n 192.168.0.10. Removing from my HSM, VTL list server, everything is blank. Let's delete the certificate file as well. Delete cert client. Deleting the server certificate files. Deleting my server.pem file which I recently downloaded. Done. So if you see now, VTL verify, no information about my HSM and no information about my client on the HSM. No certificate exchange. So now with the help of single command using Luna CM, we can do this NTLS setup. The command is client config deploy. There are some shortcuts as well, but I'm writing the complete command. The shortcut will be CCFG and deploy can be replaced with the DP and so on. But as of now I'm using the full syntax. Client config deploy -server my HSM IP -client my client IP -partition the name of the partition -verbose. Make sure you add this -verbose parameter because else you'll not be able to see on the console what is happening on the background. Client config deploy server IP, your HSM IP, client IP, the name of the partition you want to assign, and verbose. So this single command will do those steps for you. Let's start that. And there is a typo in.
I think you had it in partition.
Oh, yep. I have one I missing here. Now this should be good. I just have to provide the admin password once, only once. And now this command will take care of everything. Using username admin. No clients are registered, verifying whether this client is already registered or not. So no client registered. It found the Nathan partition as well. Nathan is there. Generated your self-signed client certificate. Sent your client certificate to the appliance. This registered your HSM on the client. Received your server.pem file, so that is also done. Registered client on the HSM. Assigned partition successful. label blank, done. From my Luna client, now I can see this blank partition. Using single command, you can do all those steps as well. Now we have to initialize this partition Nathan. So before I continue, folks, any question in any command which I have ran so far? Perfect. So now this is my pet base HSM. If I have to initialize PO, if I have to initialize crypto officer, I have to talk to a pet server. Without that, I cannot operate. So let us open a different command prompt. Let's see the status of your pet server. Perfect. So pet is now currently connected to this server. So to my Luna CM console, this is my Luna CM console. We have to tell the information about the pet server. If you want, you can put the label as Nate the Great. As the consumer of the partition, I would appreciate that. For sure, Nathan, I can definitely do that. So we have to first, before I put the label to the partition, I have to tell my client about the pet server. That go and listen to the pet server at this IP. So the command is simple: ped connect -IP 192.168.0.32. In this case, our client and the pet server are same, but it is possible that your pet server is running on a different client and your actual client is different. But for this demo, we are using the same client. Ped connect -IP -port 1503 and done. Done. So now my Luna CM, my client interface, knows about this pet device. Now we have to initialize this partition init -label Nate the Great. So now we are initializing this partition Nathan, which is Nathan name is on the partition side and Nate the Great on the client side. So let me present my camera and show you the sequence of pet keys which I'm gonna use. So partition init -label Nate the Great, and yes, I'm initializing this partition. Proceed. So which user will be the first owner of the partition? Who will take the ownership over the partition? The name of the user?
I think it's not the PO security officer.
Absolutely right. PO, your partition security officer, is the one who will take the ownership over the partition, represented by blue color ped key. Totally up to you if you want to use SO key as your PO key as well, or if you want to have two separate keys. This is just a training, so I'm gonna reuse my SO as a PO. Even before that, it says, even before I can start using this remote pet connection, what is the first key I have to authenticate to establish the remote?
The remote, the orange key.
Absolutely right. So it says on the ped, insert your RPK remote ped key, and in the bracket it says orange. So first let's use my orange ped key. Orange ped key inserted. Enter the ped pin. Computing session key. Are you connecting to 555392? Yes, I'm connecting to 555392. I'm just reading out loud from the ped screen. Now we are configuring the PO, the partition officer. Would you like to reuse an existing key set? Yes or no? So we'll select yes for this demonstration. Yes, I would like to use an existing key set. Insert the blue key, inserted. Enter the paired pin, entered. Are you duplicating this key set? No, I'm not duplicating them. So right after PO is created, what's the next key we have to configure for the partition?
Crypto officer, I think.
Even before that, there is a key before that. We did the same sequence for HSM as well. What's the next key we have to configure?
This is the black
Cloning
key.
domain. Cloning domain.
Absolutely right, Yusuf, Avinash.
Oh yeah.
Cloning domain.
Domain.
Yep.
Cloning domain. Yes, right. Red key.
Yep. Red key. So every partition will have its cloning domain. So before you can create your objects, you will create your cloning domain. So now it says setting domain. Would you like to reuse an existing key set? We can. It's totally your call whether you want to reuse or you want to use a different key. Yes, I am reusing an existing key set for my cloning domain. Setting domain. Insert the red key, inserted. Enter the pin, enter. Are you duplicating this key set? No, I'm not duplicating it. Done. Your partition is now initialized. Slot list. So here my partition is now initialized. So the label on the HSM is Nathan and here it is Nate the Great. Any questions about folks partition initialization? At this stage, if my application wants to create objects, can I do it? Is my application allowed to create private keys inside my partition, Nathan? No. Why is that?
Your CO needs to be initialized.
Absolutely right. Without a crypto officer, I cannot write objects inside my partition. So crypto officer is the next important role which we need to initialize. And which user initialize crypto officer? PO. So let's log in as partition officer. Using the blue pad key, the partition officer will log in. PO login successful. Now my PO can run the command to initialize crypto officer. But before doing that, I am changing policy number 22 and 23. Partition, if you run the command show policies, this will print all your partition level policies. So you see by default, all the partition which will be created, they will be key cloning. If you want to change here, you can change it to key wrapping. We have to change policy number 22 and 23. By default, they will be disabled. Allow activation 0, allow auto activation also 0. So let's change that. Partition, let me find the shortcut for change policy. Change PO, partition, change PO, hyphen policy number 22, hyphen value as 1. Similarly, policy number 23, value as 1. Let's verify the changes using partition show policies command. Activation and auto activation are now enabled. Now we will initialize the crypto officer. Role init -n co. Role initialize, and you initialize crypto officer. Please attend to the ped. Setting user pin, crypto officer pin, it says user. Would you like to reuse an existing key set? Let's select no. No, I don't want to use an existing key set. No. Straight away it asks for you M value. From 1 to 16, we give M value as 1. N value also 1. Insert the partition owner key, inserted, black key inserted. This ped key is already used for partition owner. Do you want to overwrite? Yes or no? Yes, let's overwrite it. Are you sure you want to overwrite this ped key? Yes, I'm sure. We'll set the new pin. Confirm the new pin for crypto officer. Are you duplicating this key set? No, I'm not duplicating it. Done. My crypto officer is now successfully initialized. Now partition officer will log out, and now crypto officer will log in. Insert the black ped key inserted and enter. Done. My crypto officer is now initialized and is able to log in. But if I run the command to check the partition content, I'm getting this pin expired. So this is the same logic. Let's say if you join a new organization and the laptop you receive is configured by your IT team. They have the password as welcome123. The first thing IT team wants you to do is just log in and change the password. Same logic applies here. The partition crypto officer password was configured by your PO. They want that when the next time crypto officer logs in, they change their password. So that's why they're getting pin expired. So they will run the command role change password for crypto officer. Change password means changing the physical bit key and the pin, changing your authentication secret. Again, if you want to change it, first you have to provide the existing one, the current which was set by the PO. So this key configured by my PO and the pin shared by my PO. Enter your black ped key, enter the pin. If the initial secret is correct, then you will be able to change it. Now it says setting user pin. It is changing the crypto officer password. Would you like to reuse an existing key set? Yes, I'm reusing the same key. Insert the key inserted and the pin also inserted. Are you duplicating this key set? No, I'm not duplicating it. Done. The crypto officer password successfully changed in. Now if I see the content, I do not get any warning. But as of now, still my partition is not yet activated. Even though my partition level policy number 22 and number 23, they are on, but still my partition is not activated because someone have to set that initial password, initial challenge password. and that someone will be your PO. Role logout, role login as PO. Please attend to the PED. Enter the blue PED key inserted and the PED pin. So now your partition officer will set the initial one-time password for the challenge password for the crypto officer. The command is role cc create challenge for crypto officer. Enter new challenge secret. Done. So now next time when my crypto officer logs in, it asks me the password. So for the first time, whenever for the first time you log in, you also have to provide the physical PED key and PIN. Just once. Just 1 minute, Yusuf. Just let me complete this one. Done. So initial password set by your PO, and using that password your crypto officer logs in, and now if they run the command partition content, they are getting the same error. Anyone can tell me why are getting this pin expired now? Why my crypto officer is getting this pin expired again?
Could it be the policy that's forcing that? No.
Not the policy.
No, not policy.
I mean, that is again configured by a policy, but why exactly I'm getting this error? What is the root cause? I just changed the physical PED key and pin. I just changed it. Still I'm getting this pin expired now. Anyone wants to guess why? Because of this initial challenge password. Who configured this initial challenge password for crypto officer? PO. They want that next time crypto officer should also update this secondary password as well. They want crypto officer to update this challenge password too. So I'll update that, but before let me take Yusuf's query. Yes, Yusuf?
Sorry, I muted the micro. I see that. Is it possible for two different roles to be simultaneously connected to the SSM?
You mean two different roles? Can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah. For example, is it possible that simultaneously SO and PO will be connected into the same SSM?
Okay. So if SO needs to log in, SO will log in here. If PO needs to log in, PO will log in on the Luna CM. So at a given time, if you ask whether PO and CO, can they log in together? The answer is no. So if I have to, currently I'm logged in as my crypto officer. If I have to log in as partition officer, I have to first do role logout and then role login again. But one user at a given time.
Okay.
What if it's different clients? So one client is trying to log in with PO and another CO?
Yep, they can do that from a different client location. If they want to log into the same partition, they can log in as PO there and then crypto officer from client number 2. But from a given time, only one user can log into this Luna CM interface. Okay, so now let's change this challenge password. Role change password crypto officer -old. This was set by the partition officer -new. So it says you are changing your secondary credentials. So primary is this physical pet key and pin. We already changed it. Now secondary is my challenge password. Done. So if I do role logout now, role login -n crypto officer again, the password. This proves my partition is activated. My crypto officer can logs in to the partition. This is a pet-based HSM, and I just have to use partition challenge password.
So when you overwrote that for the crypto officer, did that wipe out the challenge password set by the PO, or are they still independent of each other? Just one set for the crypto officer and the other one set for the PO?
Okay, so your PO and CO, they are independent user. When I say my partition is activated, it is only applied on crypto officer and crypto user. These are the only two roles which can now log in as password. If I have to do login as PO, even though my partition 22 and 23, they are activated, whenever PO logs in, they have to provide this physical pet key. Always.
Right, right. But their challenge password wasn't changed when you changed that with the old and the new just a minute ago.
So that challenge password, this challenge password was for crypto officer only, but configured by PO. This password, this password was for crypto officer only, but this password was configured by the partition officer.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
They just want the partition officer to update these credentials the next time they log in. So partition PO officer, whenever they logs in, they have to provide this physical pet key always. But yes, as my partition is now activated, my crypto officer can use just a password to log in. And now as both my primary and secondary credentials are updated, I'm not even getting any warnings. Yes, Yusuf?
Sorry, it's another hunt.
Oh, okay. So folks, any questions from this small demo where we initialize the partition, initialize PO, created CO, changed the password for CO, activated the partition, set the initial password, after that updated those password after logging as crypto officer? Any questions, anyone?
Sorry. So why is it that I understand the challenge? I'm trying to understand why does the challenge password and also the CO also has to use the PED as well too at the same time? Why two separate? I guess. Well, I mean, one is the challenge password and one is one is using the PED. Is there a reason why that's done for CO?
Yep. So your crypto officer is the one who have to log into your partition and create objects and do cryptographic operations multiple times.
Okay.
If that operation needs to be done after every 1 minute, after every 5 minutes,
I see what
it is not feasible that my crypto officer goes provide this pet key and pin. It is not feasible, right? So what we are providing you is this alternative. You still have your authentication secret securely stored inside your HSM. On this,
I see. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, I see. So whenever the CO is doing work, it's that once that password is entered, in a sense, the one time I created it will continue to use that password, right, to go do his job. Okay.
Yep. So this authentication secret, which was stored inside this physical pet key, is now cached on the HSM, securely kept on the HSM, protected with the help of this password right here. So whenever crypto officer logs in, they provide this password and boom, they can do this authentication process and do the required cryptographic operation. Any other question, folks?
Are you going to mention or bring up how you can script this or automate it with the LunaCM -E and using a text file.
Automation for which part, Nathan? Sorry.
For the Luna CM, when you, I was just gonna make the comment that a lot of people, that I mean, especially with the pad keys, and especially if you have a lot of HSMs, a lot of partitions, and all that other kind of stuff, this is 30 minutes or so, and you could kind of script it a little bit if you go to and use the instead of going into the Luna CM utility, when you're on your Luna client folder, you could do Luna CM -E, and then you could call out a text file, and it will run all the commands for you in a sequence to essentially automate it. So if you put that in like kind of a batch file too, you could kind of do it the same way. But your pad keys are still the manual part, but it does save a lot of time.
Yep, absolutely. So, like Nathan mentioned, whatever we just saw, this could be automated. But at the stage where you have to manually provide the physical pad key, that still needs to be done manually. But yes, you don't have to type this command multiple times if you are operating on multiple partitions. So, yep, thank you for bringing that up, Nathan. Okay, so now let's continue with HSM tools. So let's exit from here. Let's use the first tool as CK demo. So PKCS 11 written tool, and you can do multiple operation. So let's say if you have to open a session, press 1. If you have to log in, press 3. So if I have to create objects, on my HSM partition, can someone tell me whether I have to log in as 0, 1 or 2? Which user I will log in? If I have to create objects inside the partition, Nathan? Absolutely right. Crypto officer. Yep. Enter the PIN. This is the challenge password it is now asking for. So Chris, that's where your life is easier now. Just provide the password and do those testing everything. Otherwise, you have to provide the PIN and all. Every time you do something fine, you will see status doing great, no errors. So now let's generate a key. Sorry about that. So if I have to generate 45 to generate a key. Let's generate the key as AES 16 32. All the attributes enabled. Sign attribute, verify attribute. Done. On my HSM, one object created. Let's verify that using the command partition show. So one object created. Object count in Nathan updated to 1. Previously it was 0. I can verify the same using my Luna CM. I have to log in as crypto officer. Partition content. One AES key created. So let's encrypt a file. Before that, let me find the handle number using display object 27. Everything is number based, so 56 is your AES key which just got generated. Now we have to encrypt a file, so let's generate a text file. So this is my test file. Let me rename it as well. abc.txt. So this is my text file which have some test data. So let's encrypt this file using the key which we recently generated. So to encrypt a file, we have the number as 40 encrypt file. Okay, encrypt a file. Let's select AES CBC padding 29. Enter the name of the file abc.txt. Key to use, the handle number is 56. Doing great. So with this, we recently encrypted this file and got this encrypt.bin. We encrypted this text file using the key which was stored inside my partition. I was able to utilize that key because I logged in as crypto officer. So let's decrypt that file as well. So for that decrypt, we have the handle number as 41. Decrypt a file. Same mechanism. Enter the name of the file to decrypt. Encrypt.bin 56. Doing great. And this is my decrypted file. Similarly, using CKDemo, once you have your partition activated, if it is a PET-based HSM or if it is just a password-based HSM, using these tools you can test multiple functionality like creating objects, deleting objects, encrypting file, and so on. Then we have a utility called as multi-token, which is your performance monitoring tool. Let's exit from multi-token. Oh, sorry, CKDemo. So multi-token -mode RSA sign verify -key with the length 2048 will open 30 multi-threads against 0 slot. Just have to provide the crypto officer password and it will run some threads, and the result will be in operation per second. So 29.2 operations per second, 30 operations, RSA sign verify operation per second are now happening. This is again my local networking setup, so you might see some different numbers. So this is multi-token. Once you have an HA group created, you can individually test your partition performance by running multi-tokens against a particular partition, and then after running multi-token against your HA group, you can compare the performance yourself. You can do it for encryption, decryption, for any operation, cryptographic operation, you can run this multi-token tool. And the last utility I want to show you is CMU. So let's say if you want to see the list of all the objects inside the partition, CMU list. You just have an AES key. If you, let's say if you want to generate some new key pair, CMU generate key pair password for the crypto officer, because we have to create objects, RSA PKCS 2048 public exponent as 3. Done. A public and a private key pair successfully generated with handle number 53 and 60. You can verify on Luna shell. It was 1 earlier, the number of objects. it changed to 3. So now your partition Nathan have 3 objects, one symmetric key and one asymmetric key pair. So if you want to generate, let's say if you want to generate a cell sign certificate, let's generate that. So public handle is 53, private handle is 60. Okay, so let's change that. Let's generate a cell sign certificate, CMU self sign certificate using the public handle is equal to 53 and the private handle associated with certificate will be 60. Start date for this certificate, let's say 2023 1st of Jan. End date is equal to 2025 1st of Jan and a unique serial number. Okay, anyone able to find the typo here? CMU self sign certificate, public handle, private handle, start date, end date, it's also correct. End date is serial. Okay, hyphen, I missed the hyphen here. Okay, enter the password. Okay, so CMU list to recheck the handle numbers. Okay, so I think let me generate the key pair this time with specifying the handle number, hyphen modulus bits is equal to 2048, public exp as 65537, hyphen label public is equal to hyphen sign is equal to true, hyphen verify also equals to true. PKCS and done. So now let's find the handle number for my public and my private. Okay, so now we just have to update this command. So public handle will be 79 and the private handle will be 80. Country code CA, province Ontario, locality Ottawa, organization name Thales, unit training, common name, let's call this certificate as Yusuf, address blank and done. So now if you run CMU list, you can see a self-signed certificate being created inside your partition. So similarly, you can test multiple things using this utilities which are there by default with the Luna client installation. You have CMU, you have multi-token, you have CKDemo. There are some commands which are under VTL. There are many commands which are under Luna CM, which we're gonna test in the remaining 2 days of our training. So tomorrow we have to take backup of these contents. We're gonna use Luna CM for that. When we have to configure HA, I have another HSM, I will power it on and create another partition. When we have to do that HA configuration, again Luna CM will be required for that. So for proof of concept, for demonstrations, these tools can make your life easier. Even let's say if you have to do some troubleshooting, just run like VTL verify. See whether you are able to contact this partition or not. So as of now, I just have one partition visible. But if you have multiple partition, just run VTL verify and see whether the connectivity is there or not, whether partition is visible or not. So very, very helpful tool. Make sure you test them in your lower environment. Definitely not be testing in your production, but yes, this can make your life real easy. So folks, any questions from day 1 or day 2? Any questions? Please let me know. Perfect. So I'll take the silence as no, that there are no questions. Folks, I hope all of you have created your account. I can still, let me double check if still there are a few. This is created. 1, 2, and 3 and 4. So still 4 people have still yet to create their account. So I request you to create it by tomorrow so that I can enroll you for the certification exam. If you do not have your account created here, I'll not be able to register you. So thank you for creating your accounts who have already done it, and thank you in advance for people who will be creating it soon. So folks, thank you for joining day 3. I wish you very good rest of the day, and good night for few folks who are joining from IST, and see you tomorrow. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.